Hello everyone. So today we are going to talk about the basics of Python. And if you are new to coding or if you're new to Python, this is the video series where you can begin. You can also learn about other coding languages because it usually just differs in the syntax, but most of the part is same for all the coding languages. So let us begin. So overview, we'll see what Python is and its uses. Then we'll also see what variables and constants are. Then we'll see syntax for Python and the data types. So what is Python? Python is a popular programming language and it was released in 1991. So it has been here for a long time and there are various developments that are taking place in it as we progress. So the uses, so Python is used for various things like web development. It is used on the server side, which means more of the functionality, or you can connect it, use it to connect to a database. It is also used for software development and also for maths. If you want to perform various mathematical calculations or even complex ones, complex math functions, so you can use Python, you can code in Python to solve that. And it is also used for system scripting. So system scripting basically means that you can write codes to automate certain things or even perform certain tasks in your system. If you write a Python code and if you run it, you can even make copies of a folder or various things, and you can also make it so that the code runs daily so that there is backup every day. So you can make your system do various things by writing a script in Python, and it ranges from just making backups to performing complex tasks and all. Now variables and constants. So a variable is a data item whose value can change during a program's execution. So basically it stores data in it and it can be changed, whereas constant is a type of variable which holds value which cannot be changed. So their names itself are self-explanatory, because variable literally means it can be changed. It is something which is not fixed, whereas constant is something which is fixed, which is constant and which will not change. So it's just as simple as that. Now the syntax. So Python syntax can be tricky for beginners and especially to understand why it is wrong or why you might get an error. But once you get along with it, it will be very easy for you to just write the code. And also the Python syntax is such that it makes it easy for the readers, so it is very readable. Now, if you see, there are two samples screenshots I've attached over here. The first one says, in fact, both of them say if 5 is greater than 2, print 5 is greater than true. So both these are similar, but there is one minute difference. The first screenshot here has spaces before the print statement, whereas the second screenshot does not have any space. Now, as minute or as negligible as it may seem, it is an important part of Python syntax. So when you are writing an if condition, it means that the lines which are following it will be executed if this condition is true. So this print statement will only be executed when the above condition is true. So you can say this print statement is a part of this if block, which is why you have to give some spaces so that it will be distinctively visible to us that this is a part of this. But if you write it this way, it just seems as if they both are their own individual statements. And this can also be correct if you have just at least one statement inside the if block with spaces to distinguish it from the normal statements. So this is the correct syntax, this is the wrong one. Now if you're writing two print statements, the second one is completely okay and it will not give you any error. But since you're writing an if condition and the second one will only execute if the condition is true, then this is the wrong one. Now this is another example where first screenshot shows two if conditions and one print statement under each of it. So in the first one you can see there are like 2 to 3 spaces, whereas in the second condition there are like 10 or 12 spaces, which is completely fine with Python as long as there are equal number of spaces in one block. Now if I write this statement, if I write two print statements in the same if block but with different spaces, you will get an error. So like I said, when you're giving spaces, it should be equal number of spaces for that specific block, and which is minimum of one space, and commonly four spaces are given. So we'll see about this when we try sample codes. We'll see about this syntax. Now comments in Python. So what are comments? So comments can be used to explain Python code. Not just Python, in any other programming language, comment can be used to explain the code and make the code more readable. Now in Python, comments are written using the hashtag symbol, which you can see on your screen. So in this example over here, if you see, the statement reads hashtag, this is a comment, and then there is a print statement after that. So when you execute this, the comment is not at all being executed. The system will not, run this line. It will directly run the print statement. The comment is only for the user to increase readability or to increase the understanding of the program. Now you can also see another way how you can give comment, which is at the end of the line. So you write the print statement first, or if you write any other line first, and then you can just give a hashtag after some spaces and write whatever comment you want to write. So that comment will usually be explaining that line and it will help the user to understand it. Now, comment are especially helpful when you're writing long programs for complex softwares maybe, and sometimes it happens that you forget what one specific part of a program does. But if you have written comments for that, it will be very helpful for you, as you will realize instantly what it does. And even if you pass on the program to a third person for reviewing it or editing it, the third person will be helped if you write comments. If you do not write comments, it will be very difficult for any other person who has not written the program to actually read and understand what it does. But by mentioning comments, it will make it very easy for them. You can write specific comments for each function maybe as to what that function does. So whoever the third person is, he can directly navigate to his point of interest or what he wants to review just by reading the comments. Now data types. Okay, before going to the data types, we will go and see some coding, how to code in Python. So to code in Python, you can use various development environments like Jupyter Notebooks or Anaconda, and there are also various online compilers which you can use, and Google Colab is the one which I'm using currently. Of course, it is a free software and you can just type in the link and open it on any browser. So how to write comments? Firstly, hashtag this is a comment. Now if I just run this, there will be no issue. It does not matter how many spaces I give or whatever I write inside it. The comment will, it will not change the execution of the program. If I write print statement over here, print hello, the P should be small. If I write capital P, I'll get an error. So these minute things are important in Python. It's syntax. Now if I change this comment to just like something like ABCD, it will not affect how the program executes, and the print statement is still working as it should. Now after comments, we are to see the syntax. So like we saw in the example on the presentation, if 5 is greater than 2, print 5. So you saw as soon as I pressed enter, the the development environment automatically gave 2 spaces for me over here, so that the line which I'm writing next is inside this code block. So now if I write 5 if 5 is greater than 2, print 5, it will print 5. You can see 5 over here. And if I remove these spaces, I'll get an error. It says indentation error, expected an indented block after if statement. So indented basically means properly spaced. So it expects you to give some space in the next line after an if statement. So when I give you a single space, it still runs. If I give 5, 6 spaces, it will still run. But if I give 0 space, it gives error like you saw. Now in the next line again, if I press enter, the Google Colab automatically takes you to the same number of spaces so that you do not get an error. If I write print 2 over here, it will print both of these. If I write this print 2 with 0 spaces, this will again not give an error. This is because you have one line after the if condition, so the program considers this to be one block and this to be a separate individual line which is not affected by this if condition. Even if this if condition is false, the second line will be printed because it is its own line, it is not inside the block. So that is why it doesn't give error. Also it is executed regardless of what the if condition value is. So if 2 is greater than 2, which is false, which we know, it will not print 5 because 5 will only be printed when this condition is true, but this will be printed regardless of what is inside the if condition. So that was what indentation or what syntax is in Python. Now again, if you see, if I remove spaces from here, it will give me an error because you need at least one indented line after the if condition. So that was about the syntax, and now we'll go back to the presentation to see data types. So data types in Python. So these are the basic data types, and they are firstly divided into broad categories and then into subtypes or proper data types, which you can see. So there is numeric category where you have integers, complex numbers, and float. You have dictionary, you have boolean, you have set, you have sequence type. So we'll see about each one of them individually in detail in the upcoming videos, but for now I'll explain each one to you briefly. So integer basically is your normal numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So all these are integers if there is no decimal place in it. Complex numbers are usually the one accompanied by a letter like J. So if I write 5J, it will be a complex number. And float is number with a decimal point. If I write 5.0, that is float. 5.1 is also float. Now dictionary is a data type where you store a key value, a key along with a value which is attached to that key. Similarly, like a dictionary where you have words and their meanings attached to that specific word. So in Python it just means the same, where you have a key and then you have a value which is attached to it, which is linked to it, which you can access by using the key. Then you have Boolean data type. The Boolean data type has only two values, which is either true or false. So true can also be represented by 1 in binary and false can be represented by 0. So Boolean is very common. Dictionary is not so commonly used and is used only for special cases or complex programs. But the numeric data type where integer, float, Boolean, strings, these are very commonly used. So set, you must have read about set in maths. Set is basically a data type which cannot store duplicate values. It can have multiple values, but none of them should be repeated. So basically it will have unique values. So that's what a set is. And when we go to the sequence type category, we have strings, list, and tuple in it. So string is sequence type, we'll see about it in detail later. So strings can also be called as arrays in Python, and we'll see about that later on in the upcoming videos. But string basically means writing any text in double quotes inside Python. So that is double quotes or single quotes. Then we have lists and tuple. List and tuple are almost same, but there is one major difference, which is tuples are immutable, which means that they cannot be changed once you have assigned a value to them or once you have created them, whereas list is mutable. So list can be changed, the values can be changed, you can add more values in between the program, but tuple cannot be changed. So that is the one major difference. So if you see the examples over here, x equals to double quotes hello world, this data type is string, since we are using double quotes, and this is like a text basically, so that is string data type. Then x equals to 20 will give you integer data type. If I write this 20 in double or single quotes, it will again give me string data type, so do not get confused with that. If you're writing something in double or single quotes, that is string in Python, no matter if it is a number. Then if you add a decimal point, like I said 20.5, or even if it is 20.0, it will give you float. Adding a letter like 1j, it is complex data type. And list and tuple, like I said, they're almost similar with one major difference. You can see that you have the same values inside the list and tuple, but they're represented a bit different. For list you use square brackets, for tuple you use round brackets. Then we have range. So range is basically, how a value lies between two values. If I write range 6, the two values are 0 and 6. Similarly, if I write range 2, 6, the two values, the upper and lower limit will be 2 and 6. Then we have dictionary or dict in Python. So in this example, name is associated with John, age is associated with 36. That basically means something like name is the key and John is the value, or you're assigning, you're linking John with name and 36 with age. So this can be used later on in the program. By reference of name you'll get John. Then we have set, where the set has apple, banana and cherry in this example. It can also contain any other data type like integer or float. It can just have numbers 1 2 3 4, and it is used, or it is represented by curly brackets, just like dictionary, but dictionary has these colons in between, which differentiates it from the set. Then we have frozen set, which is written like this, which we will not be discussing because it is more of a complex and rarely used data type. So you can read about it on your own once you are more comfortable with it. And then you have boolean. X equals to true is bool, or x equals to false, since those are the only two values possible. Now we'll see about the data types, by writing the code. So if I write x equals to 5 and then I write print type of x, it will give me integer. So x here is the variable, we are assigning the value 5 to it, and when we ask Python what the type is, it says int, class int. Now here again, if you see the syntax, like I said, there is no spacing over here. These both are starting from the beginning of the line. So indentation is only required when there is a block like if condition or a for loop, which we'll study about later. But over here you can just write them one below the other and there is no problem. In fact, there is a problem if you provide space over here, because these two have same hierarchy. You can say these two are independent lines, and if I'm writing this without a space, I should also write this without a space. So, or if I'm writing this with space, I should write this also with space. So indentation is very important in Python. Now we saw int data type. If I make it 5.0, it will become float. 5.2 is also float. Then if I just add a letter j to it, 5j will be complex. Now if I just write 5, but in single quotes, that should give us string. Or even if I write it in double quotes, it will still give us string. Then we have list and tuple. So for list, if I write in square brackets, let's say 1, 2 and 3. So this is a list. Now in this you can see that I am also storing integers and I'm also storing string. If you're confused with the number 3, I'll just write ABC. So a list can also contain multiple data types. So can a tuple. If I just replace this square bracket with round brackets, you'll see that it is a tuple. And then we have bool. So if I write x equals to true, it is of type bool or boolean. Now if I make this t small, it will still give me an error, because Python is very specific about its syntax and you can also call it a bit strict. So if capital letter is required, even by writing the small letter, you'll get an error. Now similarly, just like true, we can also write false, and for false again the type is bool. So that is it about the data types in Python, and we'll discuss about each one of them in detail in the upcoming videos. So till then, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.